Alright, so we're thinking about making a flower or maybe a rose. Some sort, probably kind of a rose. We've got this piece of pretty thin brass or copper I got from a friend. So I think what we're going to do is it's pretty dirty. All the way through, looks like it's got some overspray. That might be tarnished, and then it's got like some paint or something here. Even that side's not as cleaner, but it's got some kind of oxidization on it. So I think that we're going to wet sand it and then polish it with a compound. And then we'll mark out our pattern for a few leaves on the rose, and we'll try to figure out how to bend that and make it look cool. So I'll hit this with 2000 grit, and then if it doesn't sand enough of this off, I'll go a little coarser, maybe 15, and I'm hoping we don't have to go to 1000. Even this is pretty soft, a wool pad would probably buff this out. We're just going to use some automotive compound. It's a 36060 from 3M. I might use quite a bit. Never Dull, something along those lines. There's a bunch of different stuff to polish, but I'm hoping that'll work. That's all I got. I think in Mother's, if you had some Mother's polish, I had some Mother's polish, I don't know where it went. Let me see if I can find it. Alright, so we found the Mother's polish. We're going to try this. We'll try this before we wet sand if this doesn't work, to clean off a lot of this oxidation and some of this, and then we'll go to wet sanding. Either way, I believe this will work. So let's get some of this on a rag and see if we can't polish this up a little bit. So what I usually do on these is I'll kind of draw a square and then exit out. That way I can kind of draw my leaf, and if you needed to, you could even kind of draw in here if you wanted to try to. What I'm trying to do is break this thing up. Try not to get my leaf on this side, so we can kind of. We're gonna have to leave a hole here because we can't weld it. So you can kind of go here like so. A big square petal. The reason I do this is so I don't go past my halfway mark. So I'm trying to make all these petals somewhat symmetrical. If you can, you know, they don't have to be exact, that's for sure, because Mother Nature, there never really is anything too perfect. No straight lines, no perfect gaps. It's a man-made thing. What we'll do is we'll just trace some of these out like so. God dang, that is hard on the hand. I was able to use like a good pair of scissors I had from like fiberglass, and I also had these Swiss scissors, kind of a metal, but they're just so big they were hard to get in and out of some of this like smaller, some of these like smaller round increments here. So what I do is sometimes, the camera will pick that up, there's just a little tiny bit of a sliver there. I'll just take a little round file. Especially on the scopper, it's so soft and so smooth that it doesn't take a whole lot to get those little bursts, and then kind of clean these edges. I'll run my finger across the edges of them. That way I get stabbed rather than if I give it to somebody and they get cut or a little kid grabs it or something. So I've got 4 of these cut out. I'll clean them up with some lacquer thinner. Next thing I do is I'll stack them on top of each other, like so. That's what I'll do is I'll come back and drill a small hole, maybe like a 3/32 or 3/16 hole I'll find a little screw. I can't weld to this, so my thought would be I could take a bolt and run it through there, either from the top or bottom, and then weld it to a piece of welding rod, which is pretty close to that same copper. The next step would be drill some holes in each one of these, trying to find the center. Drill a small hole, and I'll bolt it together, and then I'll hold it all together while I like actually bend and kind of tweak on the leaf. So that's along like that line. Find a drill bit, draw a hole, and then I'll bolt all 4 of these pieces together, and it kind of sandwiches and hold it to where it needs to be. Basically what I did was I drilled a hole through these, found a small washer or bolt and washer, nutted and screwed these together, and then I kind of staggered them off. So this one's, you know, the first one, second one, third one, and then the fourth piece. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna start bending these to get a pair of pliers. And a lot of these this is copper soft enough you could do it by hand on a lot of this stuff. So you can start adding some good. So usually what I do is I just kind of start with the edge of the leaves and kind of just curl them in. You can kind of lightly roll this back. You can a couple different pliers. I use these, and then use a pair of channel locks. It's going to kind of beat these leaves up, but if you look at them, they're not perfectly smooth anyway from nature. So I say it kind of adds a little character. I don't know if it makes a difference if you start from the inside or the outside. I just start bending these, and then you'll be moving around and tweaking them so much that eventually you'll get them where you like them. This copper's nice because it actually flexes and kind of easy to work with. What I do is I'll usually do the opposite ones. I'll do these two, then I'll do these two kind of on the outside, like that. You can see where it's actually kind of starting to look like a rose. When I kind of try to figure out what the next opposite ones are, you can even just kind of like squeeze them together, so on, so forth. Kind of gives you an idea. And then just open them up as I go. These back ones, you can bend them out of the way, you know, to get the next row. However you gotta do it. Just be careful if you, especially right here where the leaf comes in, if you've got this too thin, moving it back and forth will break, especially if you're doing it with a piece of sheet metal. Had that. The sheet metal is nice because you can at least tack it back together, but as of right now, we're just going to kind of just have that, trying to bend these all up and get them to look like more like a leaf. Just a little bit of like tweaking on it and bending it. Actually, I think I kind of like where the plier leaves the marks and stuff in there more. Kind of gives it a little more character. A little beat up. And then you just got to kind of tweak on these till you think you like them. And that's kind of it as far as the flower. Right now we're going to weld a rod here, come off, and then weld it to some sort of base, something that's kind of heavy, maybe like an old bearing or bearing race or hub or something. Just have to see what we got. Alright, so I've got this throwout bearing that I'm going to use for a base. Got to try to get the stem, which is just some 1/8 welding rod, hooked to the middle of the bottom of this. So I think what I'm going to do is I found a washer that fits inside here really well. It's actually sits below the edge, so it'll still sit on a table here. And then I'm going to weld a nut there and a smaller nut to the top of that, and then weld all that together, and then end up welding this inner ring. That way this will still spin, and I'm going to go ahead and weld that together. Kind of just adds a little texture, and then it kind of bends this up, you know, like a stem on a flower would be. They're probably not going to be real straight. So next goal would be to, I did that little nut that or the nut and bolt I welded through there, or clamped all those together. I'll go back and weld, probably go ahead and tighten this up one last time because it might have loosened, and then I'll weld that bolt there, the head of that bolt, to the head of my welding rod. It should be something kind of like that. Then we can come back and kind of bend this around to try to get the weight a little more centered over to our base. Just random stuff that'll put something pretty big at the bottom. It might almost be too big. And then there you go, got that down in there. And then that way I just use the bigger ones to kind of take up a lot of the space at the bottom, where you don't need to waste the nuts and stuff on that. So, and just random stuff, nuts, bolts, whatever you've got. I mean, it's kind of whatever you want to do here. Looking pretty cool. I think that we need to add a couple, at least one if not two leaves. We'll just have to figure out how to get them to attach to the darn metal, because I can't weld it. I think I could cut the leaf, leave the stem of the leaf kind of long, and then maybe wrap it around there and then glue it with like maybe some RBT silicone super glue might hold it, or even some kind of a panel bonding adhesive. So it's kind of what I'm going to try and see if I can get that to hang on there and see if I can get something to. I sketched this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the base of this here down here kind of long. That way I can wrap this once or twice around the stem of the rose, and that's when we'll have to come up with some sort of way to attach it. So I don't think that, I mean, I know I can't weld to this even though this is welding wire, this is copper. So when I beat that in there, it kind of adds a bit of something. It kind of added like a vein up the back side of that. So I'm going to file this down. I got my little sharp edges. Again, I kind of stick my finger on there and run my hand across there, make sure it's not super sharp. I'm going to try to figure out if we can wrap this maybe around something. Small on Neil knows, maybe we can wrap this around like so. It's gonna fall. So what I could do is I could pull this up and just add a small little tack right here just to kind of create a bump, and then that will come down and it won't slide. And then if I put some sort of glue or I'm going to make two leaves, do one kind of off this way and then one kind of off this way. That piece of super glue will hold a couple little drops of this. All we're trying to do is keep it from moving around, so it shouldn't take a lot. I'm hoping with the notch we welded on the bottom here, and then this thing being kind of not round and full of like little dips where we beat it up over there on the it'll actually hopefully maybe stay together. It stuck to my finger as good as it stuck to that brass there. If it sticks to the brass as good as it stuck to my finger, we'll be in the money. It's kind of about how I would build a rose out of copper sheeting and some junk I had laying around. Next step would be to, once this dries, we're going to bend these where we want them, then I'll probably spray some clear coat. I have some clear coat in the can, kind of spray on there just to keep it from rusting. It'll help add a little bit of pop. So that's pretty much it. Like these videos, this type of scrap metal art, these kind of dumb things I'm doing, like, subscribe, and comment below. And remember, go out there and create something today, even if it sucks. Peace.